Episode 1340 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello everyone, welcome to FDH Lounge Mini Episode 1340. This is FDH Managing Partner Rick Morris here, and good friend and longtime FDH Lounge dignitary Jake Digman here. And 1340, a number very near and dear to my heart, Jake Digman. It's good to have you on for this one, such a good friend as yourself. We're here to do the WrestleMania 37 recap. When I used to do public radio down in Athens, down in my school days, 1340 WOUB AM. So a very warm feeling in my heart for that number, and who better to have on the show than a great of the game like yourself, my friend.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, especially with that wonderful intro.
Sure. Well, again, guys like me and you, no matter how lukewarm at best the product may be, we look forward to WrestleMania every year because it's WrestleMania, and it has the chance potentially to exceed expectations. I will say night one did. Night two is about what I expected, more or less. Where did you come out on that spectrum?
Wait, are we talking WrestleMania again for like the second time in a week?
Yes, we are. We did the preview, and we saw some things coming and some things we didn't see coming. But yes, we're doing it again.
Well, all right. It looks like I'm drinking again then. I agree with your sentiments on what you just said. Night one delivered everything that, when we were kids and we watched, looking forward to seeing WrestleMania, and, you'd get you knew what was going to happen. Like, for example, you knew that Hulk Hogan was going to beat Andre the Giant. You knew that Stone Cold Steve Austin was going to win the title in the main event against Shawn Michaels and win the championship. There was all these little different moments, but you still tuned in because it was like, even though you knew what was going to happen, it was that anticipation of seeing it and being like, okay, they did it. That would be night one, big happy celebratory ending. Night number two is Vince McMahon's wet dream where he says, F you. It's like, well, night one, Vince comes out and goes, welcome back, fans. Night two, Vince goes, F you, fans.
I mean, if we're gonna look at it that way, I mean, is it oversimplifying to say night one more akin to WrestleMania 30? Night two maybe more akin to WrestleMania 32?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it. It was akin to night two was akin to something, and I'm sure we'll get into all that as we break down the greatest event in sports entertainment history, where fans came back into the arena until the rain made them go away.
Exactly, and our go-away image of Samoa Joe in the Fed is rocking a poncho on night one. So they had to keep him around just for that before busting a slug in him, unfortunately. So.
Man, is there any better of an image to describe Samoa Joe's entire main roster run in the WWE than him standing there in a cheap-ass poncho next to Michael Cole going, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, in terms of misusing people, and you're right about the symbolism of his entire run, somewhat akin to Goldust putting that wig on the head of Goldberg. I mean, that's what that had to be similar to in my mind, as far as making somebody tough look geeky. But as far as tough guys go, we open with a real bomb fest here with Lashley and McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Okay.
I hate to cut you off immediately, but you did skip the lead of the first ever rain delay in WrestleMania history, and I only bring this up because it's something that you and I have. It gave us an opportunity to experience something that I know you and I have complained about on the air and off the air. Is they had no idea what to do. Like, it was severe weather, and obviously severe weather wasn't planned. I believe I tweeted out or I put on the Facebook or whatever it was. Looks like God is getting his wind back from 2006. So, the rain delay take place. But to the WWE's credit, what they did was they went to the back and they had, the guys start cutting promos. Personally, this is just my own personal thing. I didn't like that because I like to see the people for the first time when they come out, and you get that like grandiose WrestleMania appearance. But I understood why they had to do it. And looking at this, Kevin Owens knocked it out of the park. Nailed it. Perfectly unscripted promo. They handed him a microphone to go out there for 3 minutes and talk about your match tomorrow. Kids, take note of that. That's without a writer. That's without any scripting. Perfect. Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Drew McIntyre, that was the drizzling you-know-what.
Right.
Where I was like, okay, I thought you knew how to cut a promo, but apparently you don't. And Drew McIntyre just looked like, I don't know if he was going to just have a nervous breakdown and cry. And then I was to the point where, are they going to do this match back here? What's happening? And
right.
You kind of get a feel for the guys that were, comfortable on a live microphone without having anybody, scripting them. And the other people, now we know why everyone's scripted, because they're just like, they were a deer in headlights. Like, I don't know what Seth Rollins was talking about, but he sounded like he was having fun.
Well, yeah.
he sounded like he was having a good time, but for the life of me, I can't. Okay, he's like, yep, I'm going to go wrestle Cesaro. How you doing? It's great. Everything's wonderful. He's just like, okay.
Wow.
I just thought that was an interesting take on, because they were forced to do something, we got the opportunity to see why some guys can cut a promo unscripted, give them bullet points, and other performers will need to be basically have everything written out verbatim for them.
Right.
And funny thing is, we'll just say a birdie once told me a quote, and I can't mention the birdie's name, but he's like, I was having a conversation with someone, and he's like, these people are idiots. I'm like, because there was always a complaint. And he's like, some of these people, and this was many years ago, but still, I'm sure might still fly. He's like, these people are idiots. You see, if you tell them to go out there, they're not like, Flair, Rhodes, Austin, Rock. They don't know what to say, and I'm like, then why would you have this job?
Right.
I don't know. That always baffled me. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't play in the NBA because I can't dunk and I can't shoot a basketball.
Right.
You don't see anybody signing me up to go join the team and stand there and like, hey, go be a body.
Well, yeah, exactly. A lot to unpack there, Jake. Couple things. First of all, I know who said that to you. Same person said that to me. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, and I think you are. Yes. So there's that. I know where you posted that God getting his win back thing. It was on Facebook because I remember clicking like. So there's that.
Okay.
And then from checking out the Grit Fiend podcast after WrestleMania, they were ragging on, what's her name, Sarah Schreiber for the thing with Drew McIntyre. He took a deep pause and she jumped in and he was like, please let me finish. That's on him. Grit Fiend was wrong. That's on him. If you're a wrestler, you're doing a live, spontaneous kind of a deal, the announcer's not just supposed to stand there waiting for you, while you're doing your Dr. Frankenfurter routine with your pauses. So that's on him, So I mean,
yeah. I mean, if you're watching, like an NBA game or whatever, or NFL game, and then they're doing the sideline reporter goes to talk to whomever, and all of a sudden we'll just say Tom Brady, and goes, okay, Tom Brady, congrats. What is off of the game coming up?
Right.
And he just stands there like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
They're gonna go, all right, well, Tom Brady doesn't have anything to say. Back to you.
Listen, and I don't want to bury him. I get what he was trying to do. He was trying to come off as being spontaneous, as somebody who was making thoughtful statements before he goes out there. But by the same token, you have to think about the byplay with the interviewer. And the interviewer can't just stand there and wait for you while you're doing your whole thoughtful Shakespearean kind of a deal here. So, again, that's on him to whatever degree. As far as, the other elements here, Kevin Owens, I agree with you, but I will say this. It seemed to be taken on some corners of the internet wrestling community. That whole thing about nobody wanted him and Sammy when they were making their way through the independents, that was taken as a 3-minute long subtweet of the likes of Jim Cornette in him doing that. I think people are reading too much into it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think he just went out there and cut, the standard promo. He might have been slightly directed at Corny, but I don't think he went out there and go, awesome, I finally got 3 minutes on WrestleMania to cut a promo on Cornette. No, it was just one of those things where, I thought, out of all of them, I thought he was one who nailed it, knocked it out of the park. And you've been wrestling the same guy telling the same story for 20 years. You better know how to do it.
By the way, and I'm going to say this as regards that, I saw, and this was one of the Fallout videos, I have seen people with my own two eyes, the 21st century version of the Hard Times promo, and it is Sami Zayn's reaction to losing that match. If you've seen his video with Sarah Schreiber, I don't know, have you seen it, Jake?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Well, without ruining it, it's basically a thing of like she's asking him how he felt about this, and he starts going into this prolonged thing about how none of this feels real. It feels like an out-of-body experience. I know Logan Paul put his hands on me, but it was like from that point on, it was like I was floating above my body watching it happen. He's going into this entire delusional thing, and it's the greatest promo in many, many, many years. I was laughing, but hopefully laughing in the right way. It was just incredible. Sami Zayn, when he's on, is a freaking genius. But anyways, you were right that I buried the lead by not getting into the backstage stuff. And then, of course, Vince did his whole, version of the post 9/11 thing here of, let me welcome back open society here at WrestleMania. So, Vince trying to get himself over in the moment here, and people were letting him, have his due, I guess, for that. I wasn't. I was very cynical. I thought it was Vince being Vince, but it was what it was. This first...
My issue with that, and again, maybe this is old school me on this, I didn't care if Vince walked out on the stage and said, welcome to WrestleMania, welcome back to all the fans. I was at WrestleMania 20 when he said, hey, thank you for 20 years, and just walked out and did that. You're the owner of the company. Sure, it's part of it to inflate his ego, and the other part of it is, somewhere deep down inside, maybe he's, genuine. My issue I had with it was all of the talent standing up there, like, yay, we're so happy to be here behind you. Like, okay, Roman Reigns is the tribal chief, your badass heel, and he's just standing right next to Edge. Like, yeah, we got a match later, and it's going to be fine, but don't worry, this is a part of the show. Like, all the baby faces and all the heels were just there.
I
and
agree.
I'm like, okay,
I agree.
You just killed everything dead.
Yeah.
Even if you would have had them, okay, if you want to do that and have them on both sides, and like when it's over with and they're walking to the back, like, they glare at each other, or even if you want to build that into, screw it, we're doing this right now, and Lashley just like, I'm going, like, Drew McIntyre be like, screw this, I'm going to the ring. Okay, that I could buy into, but it's just like, all of a sudden, I don't know, the equivalency to me if we were watching, the beginning of Avengers Endgame, and all of a sudden, Thanos just sitting around going, hey, we had so much fun last time, guys.
I agree. Would it kill you to kayfabe? Put the two sides on opposite sides of the stage, and that way you wouldn't give us something.
Don't have them out there at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't need to see all. I don't want to see all of the talent. Could you imagine if it was WrestleMania 14 and the crowd saw Stone Cold Steve Austin as soon as the show opened?
Right.
It would kill it dead. Part of the anticipation with this is building up that emotion, that anticipation, so that you're waiting all night to see that person you want to see. So when they finally come out, you're like, yeah! You have that. I remember waiting, like I mentioned, Austin, Rock, Hogan going on last, all the stuff like that. If you send them out right with WrestleMania 3 open with Hulk Hogan standing out there right away, it just killed you. Number one, you killed the pop dead. And number two, you killed all that anticipation. And number three, it just makes him look like another guy.
Well, and I'll tell you what, and I think we can agree with this. The one thing that would have salvaged that is when Vince was done talking, if Sammy would have bum rushed him and screamed into the mic, when will this conspiracy against me stop?
I would have laughed. That would have worked.
That would have been amazing.
Instead of we're all happy to be here because you're all here.
Yeah.
Which we would find out over the course of the next 24 hours would be a total lie.
Well, exactly. And some of the people there were on time that was more borrowed than they knew. But typical WWE booking with this first match, Lashley McIntyre, you called it as far as Lashley keeping the title. It was a good match. They threw a lot of bombs. I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was pretty good. The finish, I thought, made Drew McIntyre look like a complete geek. That MVP yells something from the floor. Not even on the apron. He yells something from the floor, distracts him. Lashley puts him in the hurt locker or whatever the heck we're calling it these days, and gets the clean win. The clean win. I mean, somebody yelling your name at ringside does not make it not a clean win. This is a thing here where for anybody who is certain that Drew McIntyre is going to come out of this okay subsequently, supposedly they were waiting to build towards him getting his big moment in front of crowds. All I could think of in watching this was Lex Luger, WrestleMania 10.
Oh, you thought WrestleMania? Okay, I could see WrestleMania 10. I also thought maybe Lex Luger, SummerSlam 93 on this one.
SummerSlam 93, exactly. This thing of like there will always be a tomorrow.
Not getting the big win.
Yeah, and look, he's
I
been on top.
I stood going into this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, you put the title on Lashley like this, and Lashley that crowd was cheering for Lashley. You know, obviously it's more of a smarter crowd. They were behind Drew, but they were also behind Lashley because of the same reasons I said on the previous show. Now, me personally, I think Drew McIntyre, unless he gets, some kind of something to give him his heat back, he's dead in the water as a challenger, and I think he's challenging at the next show, WrestleMania Backlash, whatever that is.
Right.
let's market the name as much as we can.
Water it down. Yeah.
I have no interest in seeing that match. The babyface lost clean.
Well,
and the funny thing is, so when I was watching the live show with MVP distracted Drew, I thought he yelled boobies. Instead, he yelled Bobby. When I first watched it, I could have sworn he yelled boobies, and Drew was like, oh, and I'm like, boobies? What? Caught him all distracted. I'm like, then I realized that later on he said, which still is even stupid because it's not even his name.
Right.
Like, why would you be just like? At least he could have like got up on the apron.
Yes.
Done something.
Exactly. Thank you.
Other than just yell, "Hey, Bobby!" Like, oh God, he yelled the other guy's name. I'm gonna lose now. It did lead to a great moment in commentary when Keith and I were watching this show, though, because I was doing it as if I was Drew McIntyre. And he's like, when he had him in the hurt lock, and I'm sitting there watching it going, I'm Drew McIntyre. I'm going to kick out. There I go. I'm going to run up. I'm going to power up. Oh, no, I didn't get out. I'm going to take a nap now. Good night. Yeah, that was my little running commentary on that match. Which led to all night. I'm going to take a nap now. Good night. I'm Drew McIntyre. Night.
That's amazing, Jake. That is amazing what you did right there. And I have to say, and again, here's one of the worst problems of modern wrestling. It's whenever because of real life circumstances that something can't happen. Like, I won't say at the next pay-per-view when these guys wrestle again. It's not that it's too soon to take it off of Lashley because he retained at WrestleMania. But on the whole thing of Drew McIntyre getting it back before a live crowd, there probably won't be another live crowd until SummerSlam at this point. Looks like the next couple ones are going to be in the Thunderdome. So is Drew McIntyre going to get his coronation moment back in the Thunderdome? I mean, maybe, but that's one of the problems here.
Yeah, on this, I actually keep Drew McIntyre as far away from the championship. I go in a different route. I give the fans the match they want. And at SummerSlam, do it in front of a live crowd. Give us Lashley Lesnar.
Now,
you already kept the belt on him. Give us that super fight. Give us the one where mainstream people will look at it and go, okay, I know all these other guys are BS, but these two are legit badasses, and they're going to go out there and try to kill each other.
Let me ask you this.
That's what I want to see.
Does that match need the belt?
No, but it should have the belt.
Okay, all right.
Only because I'm going with this as if it's like, like a UFC style, heavyweight collision here.
Okay.
That it's for the belt. And probably, if you want to, knowing how Vince likes to book things, I would be surprised if Brock Lesnar won the belt and then lost to Drew next year in front of fans.
Very
if
possible.
They're still on the Drew McIntyre Express, because here's the thing, as we've noticed with history, WWE gets a baby, they have a heel, and it becomes a baby face, and the crowd gets behind them, and they're like, yay! And they want to see something, a la Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar last year. And then, what's the term you used? They white meatify them.
Yep.
They suffer from white meatification, and then all of a sudden, nobody wants to see them, and they end up getting go-away heat.
Yes.
That's like, hey, we wanted you to win, and now that you have it, you got rid of all the qualities that made us like you. And for wrestling fans, let's face facts. The majority of them are males aged 18 to 45. They identify with badasses.
Right.
They have good comedic timing, but they identify with badasses. And Bobby Lashley right now has a book as a badass.
He has.
Drew McIntyre has not.
Well, yeah, and that's the one thing that works in Drew Mac's favor is the paucity on both brands of guys who can still be elevated to that level. They've killed a lot of the younger talent that they have. A lot of the older talent is not going to draw at that level. as far as after we talk about the next match, after we talk about this women's crap with the tag team stuff, we'll be talking about somebody where it's going to be a test on the ability to elevate a guy after years of underutilizing. But up after this one, and I tell you what, I would just as soon take both of these matches together so we don't have to talk about it on the night 2 stuff. The tag team turmoil, the tag team match for the title. I thought the tag team title match with Nia and Shayna against Natalya and Tamina going 14-20, that was my lowest rated match of the weekend. I gave it 1 3/4 stars. I thought it went on way too long. Night 1 was actually 5 seconds shorter when it had multiple eliminations in it. Night 1, I thought, went on closer to what it should have been. I gave it 2.5 stars. Nothing to write home about, but you had a couple funny things like the fall there for Liv Morgan. Thankfully, she ended up being okay. Could have been a lot worse on that wet stage there, and they got a stupid angle out of it for Monday night with her falling. But the first match I found to be, I mean, basic and inoffensive, but not like horrible. Night 2, it was like, will this crap end already?
I'm just going to sum this up with one sentence. All of this was a complete waste of time.
Right.
It was a complete cluster waste of time.
Yep.
Especially the fact that, all of the ideas that I pitched to you, something they could have done. Nope, they went with the safe bet of, okay. And then the next thing you're doing, heels versus heels, which is immediately, okay, there's a telltale thing of you couldn't get a babyface team in there, but I guess, thus would be the theme of the night 2. There were no baby faces on night 2. And then, seeing this, and like the first part of it, it's like, night 1 with the stupid tag team turmoil. Couldn't they have just done a stupid battle royal? And been like, okay, here's a battle royal. The last 2 people instead of being, a singles, it's a tag team. Everybody get a partner.
Right.
And, the last one win, you and your team win. Whatever. Something like that. Simple, easy, would have been inoffensive, got people on the show, and it would have saved a heck of a lot of time.
Yep.
And they all could have come out there and did their stupid little intros, and everyone would have been like, yay, and that would have been it. And I'm like, okay, fine. Instead of just dragging on, and it wasn't even good.
No.
And then the whole thing at the beginning of it, the whole story building to this, if you want to follow the story, was Lana and feuding with what's-her-face with Nia Jax, bullying her for all the time. Nope, they get eliminated first. I'm like, as soon as that happened, I went, all right, well, this is pointless.
Well, it was.
You're clearly not trying to tell a story. You're not trying to do anything here. So someone's just going to win. And then they went on the next night to have an even longer match that they just lose. Well, I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to give you. Tamina's never won a title. She's been in the WWE for 10, 15 years or something at this point. So okay, they're going to give her the big tag title win at WrestleMania. Cool. They can say, hey, the second, the second generation superstars, or third generation for them. They got first ever women's tag team champions that are also third generation. Nope, nothing.
Well, right.
Congratulations. They put a stamp on it and go, you wasted your time.
Well, and for as much as they teased during night 2, and this is trying to make chicken S into chicken salad, like, oh, Nia and Tamina locking up history. Well, it should have been, except they've never done anything with Tamina. This whole thing, and when they were like, this is the best Tamina's ever looked. Yeah, talk about damning with faint praise, because they've never done anything with her outside of the 15 minutes that she spent as Diesel to AJ Lee's HBK. She's never been in a position to do anything. They really missed their window with her prior to the whole, women's evolution, because back in the era of swimsuit models, she should have just been the head smacker at the top of the division, just beating the crap out of the swimsuit chicks. She could have been money in that role, but she missed her window. Nia comes along, and she's the one who actually gets the push doing this kind of crap. And I hate... The thing that makes me hate Nia and Shayna matches is that all the shine is on Nia and all the talent is with Shayna, and it just pisses me off. I guess I worked myself into a shoot, but Shayna's the one who's really great here. But
don't work yourself to do a shoot over Nia Jax. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I get that, but I just Shayna deserves so much more. I mean, one of the most talented people in the division, one of maybe 2 or 3 legitimate badasses that they actually employ in the female division. And she takes a backseat to a clumsy oaf who just works stiff, injures people, and whatever. So, yeah, the less said about all this kind of crap, the better. You didn't, at least if you had the Riot Squad in there the next night, it would have told some kind of story. But, just anything.
Right?
It was ridiculous. I'm just getting madder and madder talking about this. I had referred to this just a minute or so ago here on the. We're going to be testing the limits here of what you can do trying to heat somebody up after years of keeping them down in the mid card. Cesaro. Now, he had what I felt was a 4-star match with Seth Rollins. I thought it was an excellent match. Seth Rollins, who can look excessive with some of his goofy kind of crap, I thought he reeled it in pretty good. I thought there was a lot of really excellent spots in this match. The swings, and then the no-hands airplane spin at the end there. Just everything about this was, and this whole thing of that, like, apparently people are opening Vince's eyes to the fact that Cesaro is good. He's been really good the whole time he's been there. He was great as Claudio Castagnoli in ROH. You know, hey, this Cesaro is good. Welcome to 2006, Vince. It's a brave new world. But 15 years later, guy's finally going to get his shot. And again, there are still idiots that I see out there on the internet calling him bland. But people are excited. They're into this guy. And I think he could cut good, cocky babyface type heel or type interviews, and we're about to find out. Supposedly the push is coming. He deserves it, and this match was a great launch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. My only issue really with the match entirely is I don't have faith in the WWE booking system. How many times have they got their own stuff going? Oh, Cesaro, he won. I remember he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and became a Paul Heyman guy.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, nothing.
Right.
And then he goes to join Sheamus in the bar, and I was a big fan of them. I thought, they took, again, chicken crap and chicken salad out of chicken poop with what they were given. And then they split them up for no reason. And, it's just funny you mentioned, like, Vince finally coming on board. I'm like, I have these ideas, like, I'll get into this idea later on with one of the other matches on Night 2. But I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon just saw, like, The Transporter or something. He just saw a Jason Statham movie and realized that Cesaro worked for him. And I was like, man, I can do great things with this guy. Like, yeah, you've had him for 10 years. Really? How come nobody told me?
I mean, that's as good of an explanation as anything. And it was really just, it was a tremendous showcase. Seth Rollins with his facials and everything like that, the perfect guy to sell for Cesaro. I don't think anybody's ever sold the swing better in any of the years of it ever being done than Seth Rollins. And again, that guy definitely, he has some excesses in his style. I get why certain parts of the IWC don't fully appreciate the guy. But this was him out here at his best. And oh, by the way, in a losing effort. So I respect that. This is not a match where he was going over. So there's a lot of folks in wrestling history that could have taken some lessons in terms of going out there and helping to elevate somebody. And Seth Rollins did an incredible job. Cesaro more than held up his end of the bargain. A great match. It's interesting that during the women's tag team crap we were referencing before, that I referenced HBK and Diesel. Clearly, Vince must be hoping he's got his new HBK and Diesel here. And looking at the next match here, tag team titles for Raw. You and I didn't see this coming as far as going the full-on monster route with almost, whatever the hell it is. He's almost got some working skills, I guess, from watching this match. But there was some bit of criticism on the internet about the whole heel in peril style at the beginning. I thought it was great. I'm a big fan of changing things up, and the baby faces cutting the ring across as though they were the Minnesota Wrecking Crew and doing so comedically. I thought it was pretty awesome. Hot tag to the big heel. It changes things up. And from there, him going in and treating the rest of that match as though it was the main event of SummerSlam 2014 was something to behold. I don't know if they're going to succeed in getting this guy over, but he couldn't have gotten a better launch than this match.
I completely agree with you. I enjoyed every aspect of this match, from was it Xavier Woods talking about why they were doing better because AJ's a singles wrestler and they're a tag team wrestler and they're cutting the ring in half because that's what a tag team does.
Yep.
Just like stupid stuff like that I found thoroughly entertaining. And then when they finally tagged in Omos, they sold like $1 million. I mean, it looked like he looked like a world beater in there to the point where he beat former WWE champion, the man who won the title 3 years ago at WrestleMania, or 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago at WrestleMania in a match that many people championship, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, man, has there ever been a greater fall from being a world champion all the way down to just like nothing? Like once he got beat by Brock Lesnar, that was it. He landed back in the mid card and done, had no interest in ever going back up top to the the main events for any reason. I don't recall any champion having that big of a plummet, just like to right back to where they were. Like maybe Jinder Mahal, which by the way, he was there. I saw him on the stage on night one. I'm like, good for you, Jinder Mahal. I'm amazed you survived the firing.
Yeah. How did that happen? The thing that's interesting is Kofi did what so few in wrestling history have structurally. I mean, I almost go back to 1986, Terry Gordy with the Freebirds winning the UWF Heavyweight Championship, World Championship, of becoming a world champion whilst still in a unit. And that's the whole thing, too.
Yeah.
Now, Gordy didn't necessarily go right back to being a Freebird afterwards because he was already transitioning to Japan. But I think even in Japan, he was more noteworthy as part of a tag team. Of course, the great Doc and Gordy team. So, I mean, Gordy is maybe the one precedent I could think of not moving back into a world championship scene afterwards. But and the one thing I think that Kofi and New Day would say to you is, well, he's been multiple-time tag team champion in the last 2 years. But again, though, that's strictly a mid-card kind of a deal. And here, to get decimated the way that he did, yes, it is a matter of how the mighty have fallen. And I will say, our old pal from the Sports Talk Network, Don Peterson, he posted a picture on Facebook that somebody had taken of a bunch of the black wrestlers getting together, a big Black Pride picture for WrestleMania weekend. And, the big guy was in there, and somebody remarked that, New Day was not in the picture. And I was like, well, look at the big guy in there. You got to keep kayfabe, don't you? Come on. So, but, the match was fine for what it was. I gave it 3.25 stars. I thought it was pretty good. It was something different. They tried to get across this guy as a monster. Interestingly enough, it's a gimmick they would rip off the next night. We'll talk more about that and whether that might. Night 2, a lot of the stuff they did was sort of a pale imitation of night 1. One exception to that would be, I don't know if there was anything night 2 with the exception of the women's tag team title match. There was nothing night 2 that was worse than the cage match. Braun Strowman, Shane McMahon, usual smoke and mirrors. Diminishing returns with these guys. Shane took a hell of a bump, and for a guy of 50, I respect it like hell. But, I mean, I hate to say it, it doesn't compare to some of the bumps he's taken in the past. That's what happens when you keep raising the bar too high. So, it was a match that really, again, if you look at Monday Night Raw, okay, they're trying to establish it made Braun Strowman a big contender. What, by beating Shane McMahon? Really? I mean, I guess, I don't know. I gave it 2.5 stars, and I don't know why. I feel like I was probably being excessively generous, but I mean, it was basically just there, I thought.
The sad part about that, your statement there, is yes, everyone has been so preconditioned to see the big spots. I think him falling off of the top of the cage and landing on the mat probably hurt a lot worse than all those crash mats he fell onto.
That's right.
Because you could tell he had hit, it was just like, oh. But no one's going to get that. They're going to be like, oh, he didn't do like the big stunt spot. I'm like, I don't know, that looked pretty big and like stuntful. My favorite stuntful, it's like a word. My favorite part of this match was when, I'm pretty sure probably everybody who either loved it or hated it, was when Braun Strowman punched through the cage and drove it back inside. I'd never seen that done before, and I mean, obviously, the entire match was just crapping up the concept of a steel cage match.
Right.
You open up with interference right off the bat. It's like, if you got to do that, why did you book yourself into the situation in the first place?
Right.
Nobody said you had to do this. I mean, you could have very easily done your false count anywhere or whatever if you want to have other people involved. But it was one of those, like, everybody knew what the finish was going to be, so it was just a matter of waiting to get to it. Like, there was no way Shane McMahon was going to win that match. So everything else, I wasn't really invested in their ideas trying to get the false finish or anything. I'm like, okay. But I actually thought what they were going to do was Braun was going to do the power slam off the top of the cage and go through the ring. But then I realized there was more matches that had to happen after this, so they couldn't actually do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, you threw him down there, now power slam him and move on. It was what it was. I don't know if it makes Braun Strowman any better. He congratulations, you beat a 56-year-old part-time billionaire son. I don't understand. You should win that.
Well, I
like,
mean,
you should win that.
as far as who they're putting with him, I mean, we've come a long way from the glory days of the Mean Street Posse. 2 random mid-card scrubs, and I think Riker, it'd be generous to call him a mid-card scrub. Elias definitely is. Like, why they would be associated with Shane McMahon, it just, there's no thought, there's no effort, there's no anything into it. At least when Shane McMahon 2 years ago was affiliated with Drew McIntyre, it was sort of an extension of the next big thing push that he'd gotten 10 years earlier. It was there was some kind of rhyme or reason as to why Shane O'Mac was associated with him, instead of, hey, here's 2 scrubs that don't have a WrestleMania payday, let's put them with me. So it was just really, really goofy and convoluted, and I'm just glad that's apparently behind us at this point. As Braun Strowman dedicates his win, if I read his promo correctly, to all the dumb people of the world. So that's inspiring. But,
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice of him. I like this. This is for anybody that's ever been called stupid. I'm like, yeah, but what if they're doing stupid things?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're doing stupid things, you should be able to be called stupid.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest concept of this takes the cake over Chris Jericho spilling coffee on Kane as the dumbest feud ever in history. This actually beats the shampoo commercial.
What a
dumbest feud in history.
What a great callback to 20 years ago. That's amazing.
You're stupid.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Like, okay.
Gosh, Jake, and to think that some people have the balls to say that the creative process is bankrupt these days. Who could ever accuse them of being lazy or just phoning it in with that kind of an advanced concept at work? But as I say, thankfully that is behind us. The next match, I gotta say, I didn't want to like it as much as I did. I crapped all over the Bad Bunny thing on the preview. Okay, I'm not in the demographic of his fans, but okay, look, respect here on this. I get. I mean, he did one of the great jobs that any part-timer has ever done in any kind of high-profile match. Certainly better than Jay Leno at Sturgis 98 or any of the like. But again, it somewhat helped Damian Priest. I would have preferred that Damian Priest, as the guy they're trying to build to be the next a big star, one of the few young guys in this company they haven't ruined. I'd prefer to see him taking the pinfall, but they thought it would be more mainstream headlines for Bad Bunny to get the pinfall. Again, it was a really good match. The Bunny Destroyer on the outside, which again, to me, it's a spectacular move, but it is one of the all-time great exposing the business moves in terms of the amount of cooperation that's needed for it. But, regardless, and again, John Morrison, boy, this guy has come a long way from being the dominant guy at Lucha Underground, to being just Mrs. Goofy Stooge in these matches here. But then again, he's probably getting paid, 15 times more than he was getting paid then. So I guess that's where it all evens out. In short, really good match. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I would have been damned going into that match if I'd have thought that's what I'd have given it.
Johnny Mundo's become Johnny Ono.
Yeah.
But here's my little criticism of this, and I heard other people talk about this, and I kind of agree. The only thing I kind of have an issue with is when you get guys like Bad Bunny, and he did great for his performance, and I get why they do it, but when you get like celebrity rappers who come in and can do all of these moves better than the wrestlers can,
right?
Like they just pull this off, so it looks like any rapper or any guy off the street can do it. It's just like, okay. And every single time they bring in a celebrity, the celebrity always wins and beats up the wrestler.
Yep.
So it's like, why do we have the wrestlers? They all suck. Celebrities are clearly better than anybody, and anybody off the street is better than any of the wrestlers that are there. Like, you never, very, very rarely do you ever see the celebrity come in and, put someone over. And I get why that is, but at the same time, like this, the story I would have wanted to see was Bad Bunny admitting that he's not a wrestler.
Yep.
So when he pulls off like basic things and lets Damian Priest do the majority of the work,
right.
And then when he whips out something cool, it's like the Canadian Destroyer. Okay, would have been impressive if I didn't see 697 people do that move in the past 2 months. or the past couple, you know what I mean? But,
Right.
like, you know, there's 8 matches on AEW where they do it. Freaking Dustin Rhodes threw out a Canadian Destroyer. Ricky Morton did a Canadian Destroyer.
At age 62.
60-something-year-old Ricky Morton. I go, okay, I'm done. This movie's stupid. I'm like, this is the new DDT, where it went from, like, impressive when Jake Roberts did it, impressive when Petey Williams did it, to, oh, it's just a transition move. Now we're going to move on to the next thing.
Well, I mean,
It's like, and it's an old saying that goes back with this. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Well,
and if you're gonna do it, make it like count for something.
well,
Like now it's like, you know, like now it's like the Canadian Destroyer. Awesome, some rapper named Bad Bunny can do that move.
well, the fact that Ricky Morton came on this show to talk about doing that move, I'm not going to crap on it personally. I do understand where you're coming from.
I'm not crapping on him doing it at all.
Right.
I'm just saying that, you know, when it gets to the point where 67-year-old men are doing it, it's officially jumped the shark.
Well, let's be fair, Jake. 62 at the time. So.
62. My apologies, Ricky Martin. Big fan. I apologize.
I will say this: when Ricky was on, I loved it. He was reminiscing about the shows back at Public Hall back in the day, and I was like, "Yeah, I was at a couple of those, Ricky. That was a lot of fun to watch." But it was, yeah, exactly. We had a fun time on that. But the Bad Bunny match, it got him some headlines. It did what it was supposed to do. Again, I'd have preferred that Damian Priest would have gotten even more of a rub coming out of this, maybe getting the pinfall. But because, like I said, he's one. If you're looking at guys who are challengers to the throne eventually for Drew McIntyre, I mean, the good news for Drew McIntyre is there ain't many guys left that are plausible. They seem to be well on their way to killing Keith Lee. He hasn't been on TV in a long time. I hope his health's okay. I hope it's not that. But, I mean, you got Keith Lee, you got Damian Priest, and you got not too many guys that have a chance to crack that tier. So they should have done probably even more with him here. Like I said, giving him a pinfall, but it is what it is. For whatever reason, the one thing they're doing right now, the Fed is doing an A-plus job of elevating the top female talent that is on the cusp. And that brings us to the main event here. An all-timer, Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The match got 17-15, which I thought was just right. I wouldn't have crapped on it if it went another minute or two, but it was just incredible. I mean, the hair whip spot at the end, no wonder that went viral, because something that sounded like either a whip or a gunshot that Sasha Banks took to the abdomen, and boy, the welt that it left afterwards. But an incredible match. Sasha Banks doing so many little things along the way, but because she's somebody who, by her own admission, studied the Vanilla Midgets videos growing up here and learned from the very best. Her hero Eddie, but also Malenko and Benoit and Jericho. The little things in a match. Nobody in this business, male or female, does all the little things better than Sasha Banks. She had maybe the best performance of her career, and this is somebody that was in TakeOver Brooklyn too. Those two might be on a par with one another. I don't know. I gave this 4.25 stars. I thought it was just absolutely incredible. And Bianca Belair, with her own athleticism and everything, and emotion and all the technical things she brought to it, these two had the best match of night one, no doubt in my mind, I thought.
I agree with you. I actually thought these two had the best match of the entire both nights, personally. It was a great way to set the crowd home happy. Mm-hmm. You know, you had that triumphant moment. You as you had stated earlier in the pre-show, you know, we got that moment that could be used forever on, you know, mainstream press that WWE craves so much, where you get two African-American women that are main eventing a WrestleMania, and then that shot of a crying Bianca Belair, and it shows like any of the little girls out there, you know, hey, you can do this. I get, you know, the reason for it and why they did it. It was a great PR move. It was a great wrestling match, and it delivered in spades on everything that it needed to deliver on. And I told you in the pre-show going into it that, like, I didn't really have any reason. They didn't really give me much of a reason to care about Bianca Belair, but through the story, and this is what I love in pro wrestling, through the story that they were telling in the match, gave me a reason to get behind her to the point where we were sitting here watching it. I'm like, man, I really hope she wins. Like, I hope she pulls this off, and it would be a really good, happy, feel-good story and a really good, feel-good moment. And when she did, and you can tell the crowd wanted that too, and they went absolutely crazy, as they should. And WrestleMania ended on a happy note. The babyface stood triumphant, and all was right with the world for 24 hours.
Exactly. And you know what? And I stand corrected. It was the best match of the weekend. I'm looking at my night 2 notes. It was the best match. 4.25 stars, an all-timer. I thought it was incredible. In the match they were telling, and in the commentary also, too, it was a thing of where, even though, again, Sasha doesn't, this is not a thing most people know or think about, because Sasha is recognized for her greatness in the kayfabe and non-kayfabe senses at this point. The fact that she doesn't have a WrestleMania win is not something that's remembered about her. It will be at some point. But Bianca's the one that needed this. This is the breakthrough that she needed to become a star. They took her this far. They couldn't just stop at this point. She had to go all the way with it. She did, and it was a thing where it was just incredible. The way that it came together, the way that they executed it, it was incredible. It was the right match to go on last, whether you want to look at it from a cynical marketing perspective or in terms of ending with a feel-good moment for the crowd. It was incredible. And then, as you said, night 2, and then there's that. I think if...
Going back something real quick before we get to night 2,
yeah.
I didn't realize that, as most people I don't think did, realize that Sasha Banks' streak stat that she's 0-6 at WrestleMania now after this. I really hope they make a story out of this that she has like the anti-streak, and so next year it's like so important for her to win at WrestleMania, and she doesn't, and it just keeps going, because when she finally does win, it'll be like one of those like, oh my god, she won, which is really great because she's so good that I think she could pull that off. Like, if they make it into a thing. Like, didn't they do a Big Show one year where, like, he had never won at WrestleMania or he was horrible and then, like, Cody Rhodes fell through a table or something and he won?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. And I got to say, too, I mean, it was basically, it was foreshadowing for this entire era. And in terms of the dominance of, and count me as somebody who was not missing Charlotte Flair being on either night here. But I go back to WrestleMania 32. The first night of the Women's Championship as opposed to Divas Championship. I mean, nobody in that company at that time was hotter than Sasha. They turned her face because they had to turn her face. She gets the epic entrance there with Snoop Dogg, her cousin, wrapping her to the ring. Nobody was more over than her. And she was just another victim of Charlotte, basically. And that kind of set the tone from there. That WrestleMania-wise, she's never gotten what she deserves. But in this case, they had no choice. They had to elevate Bianca. Sasha is great at elevating somebody. She needed to play her role this year. Her time will come.